Welcome back to Kettle Additions. I'm Austin McElroy. I'm the master brewer of Cabin Boys Brewery. And today, I have a very special guest with me, Amber Hinkle, the executive director of our wonderful Craft Brewers Association of Oklahoma.
Woo!
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Man, you drove all the way up from Oklahoma City to be on this,
No,
so thank
I didn't.
you. Oh, you didn't?
No, I live here.
You live in Tulsa? Okay,
I do.
well,
now,
I was,
to be fair, I live in Bixby, which is kind of like North Dallas. So it was quite a drive to get downtown.
You still
yeah.
drove like 40 minutes.
Yeah, 4 hours to get here for sure. That did happen.
It was a huge commitment.
It was a very big sacrifice. But for you, I would do it.
Right on.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
So if you guys are listening, everything about Kettle Additions is going to be, technical brewing, industry, from the brewing side to business to, I guess, association dealings and stories when I'm by myself. So
you're welcome for being here then.
Yeah. Well, this will be fun. So, okay. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on was because you have a full scope of what the industry looks like. You're fairly new.
Yep.
How long have you been in the executive seat?
About 9 months or so, I think. We're about 9 months in.
So we can basically say a year.
We're getting close.
Yeah,
close.
you've been through the ringer already.
Yeah, we've done the things.
Yeah. So describe what you do in your seat on a, let's call it a 10,000 foot level. Spend a couple minutes describing what you do on a daily basis and why we need an executive director for the Craft Brewers Association.
Well, high level, my job is basically to promote craft beer in the state. So whatever it takes to get Oklahoma craft beer in the hands of consumers, that's basically my job. So from events to lobbying at the Capitol to working hand in hand with breweries to make sure they have what they need in order to do those things, that's what I do every day.
Right on.
So
okay.
That's a pretty high level. Gets a little deeper than that, but that's pretty much what we do.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that you have a lot of emails to go through.
Yeah, there's some in there, and it's just like, I shouldn't say this, but, anytime you, quote unquote, own a small business, everybody thinks it's this glorious, glamorous thing, right? And you're this head honcho and you sit on a throne and you do nothing but bark out orders, right? So
you've seen what through what ownership
what
looks
you do
like
every day, right?
Today. Yeah.
Right.
For the last 2 hours, I've been in negotiations on the phone.
Correct.
Which was postponing our recording.
Which is fine. Listen, but that's the thing, right? But then I also know that there are days you take the trash out. And then there are also days where you are literal high level, like, hey, I'm the master brewer and here's my vision for what I'm going to see in the next, year for whatever. This is sort of my job as well. There are days where I get to be the strategist and look down the road and where do we want to be in 5 years and 10 years and how do we get there? And then there are days where you go down a rabbit hole of how do I change this on the website and what social media do we need out there the next 2 weeks? And so it's kind of the same there too. But all of it's important, obviously, right? All of it's important.
Every single knob that you turn has an effect on the future.
It does. And it's fun. And then you just got to find the joy in all of it at some level and
that's right.
Laugh when you can't and move along to the next day. So.
And at the end of the day, sometimes you get to have a beer.
Sometimes. Yeah. It is definitely the best perk of the job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking for the future, let's specifically talk about 2024. Your vision for the CBAO, which is Craft Brewers Association of Oklahoma. Whenever you hear a brewer talk about or use that acronym, it is a group of breweries. How many do we have in membership now?
Oh gosh, I think we're at 67-ish, somewhere in there.
Okay, so we'll round up to 70 because we'll probably get 3 more this year.
I feel like certainly will.
Yeah, of course. So it's a group of brewers that want to collaborate together to make the brewery industry in the state of Oklahoma stronger, healthier, and more successful?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think in Oklahoma, we don't realize how how new the brewery industry really is. You know, it's been around, 14, 15 years now, thanks to Marshalls and Coop and those guys and Chalk. So, you know, they've been around a minute. But it's relatively new. If you look at the craft brewery industry around the country, we're still in our infancy stages. And so, and we also have the pleasure of having some of the best craft beer drinkers in the country, but we also are in a very conservative state, which makes things a little bit more difficult to get things done on a business level. So it's important that these breweries and our allied members band together and make sure that we are continuing to promote these brewery-friendly laws at the Capitol so that we can continue to do what you do every single day.
Yeah. So what was you got thrown into kind of a little bit of a fire of going into the industry and coming in the middle of a year.
Yep.
So what was the number one thing, let's say legal wise, that was on your plate and came to fruition this year? Because it's a pretty intricate world. It
really is. And I can take zero credit for this because it was pretty much all in the works when I came on board in March. And that was right smack in the middle of session at the Capitol. Luckily for us, we have an amazing lobbyist. He is at the Capitol every single day that we are in session, which makes things immensely easier for us. He's really good at what he does. But I came on board and kind of just got thrown into, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're trying to get this done. And we're going to have to partner with the Restaurant Association on this. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, there wasn't a lot for me to do at that point, right? Except for just kind of sit back and then answer questions and see what I could do to help. And so that's how we ended up passing House Bill 1715 last session.
Okay.
And I keep calling it the smorgasbord of alcohol rules. And so we were able to bring buckets of beer back for those of you who love that at a restaurant, and allow our breweries now host their own events. I don't know if people know this, but in the past, breweries could not host their own event. They had to partner with a nonprofit of some kind. So that's, and they will still continue to do that, obviously. But now if they don't have to, if they don't want to, they get 4 of them of their own.
We get 4.
Yep.
They gave us 4.
You get 4.
To throw events, only 4 that only we can host off-site.
Off-site, right.
Right.
So, which could sometimes just mean your parking lot, depending on how your premises set up.
True.
So, but at that moment, you know, the one thing I love about the brewery industry, especially here in Oklahoma and really across the country, is that their biggest heart is for their community. And so, you know, there's a lot of donations made. There's a lot of pouring that happens. I think people kind of take for granted a little bit sometimes because we just don't know any better. And so having to then give another portion of that proceeds to a nonprofit just because sometimes to me seems like double dipping. So now if a brewery decides, hey, listen, my very favorite, you know, nonprofit in the world is this animal shelter and I really want to give back, that's your choice and we love for you to have to do that, right? But it's nice to have 4 a year now where you don't have to if you don't want to, and you can put a little bit of that money back in your pocket. Being a small business, that's super important right now.
Yeah. Lo and behold, we're trying to be for profit.
It's crazy.
As a brewery.
I mean, right? Who would guess?
we're not, you know, a nonprofit business. But, you know, that's kind of how the world turns around.
It does, you know, and because, you know, the industry here in the state is in its infancy stages, we do a lot of things like beer festivals where, you know, you're out there pouring that beer for little or no money whatsoever, and nonprofits that are calling you left, right, and center to say, hey, listen, we'd really love for you to donate X number of cans, or would you come pour at this event? We have this really worthy cause. And of course, they all do, right? But I think people forget that you're just a small business. You know, you're just a local business and they're asking you for free product all the time, which again, it's what I love about the industry. They're so here for their community and they say yes all the time. Just want people to remember that you're literally taking money out of their pocket every time you do it. So just careful what you ask for. It's great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I will drink it. It's great. But
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I'm there. I'm here for it. But so it's fun. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the alcohol industry is so complex and so nitty gritty and all of the fine details, which is great to have a group like the Craft Brewers Association to filter some of those questions. And what has been your experience in the last year, you know, navigating all of these random conversations and questions and opinions? And I'm not trying to put you in a hot seat or anything like that. done a
It's
fabulous job.
Thank you. It is complex. And I find myself questioning my own self sometimes when someone asks a question. I'm like, I know the answer to this. Why am I now second guessing myself? The great thing is that I have a very good relationship with the people at the Able Commission. So if there is a question and I'm questioning myself or I'm not really sure, I will just pick up the phone or shoot an email and just say, hey, listen, I've had a question. There is a brewery who wants to know the answer to this, and I want to make sure I'm giving them the right information.
And explain to the listeners who don't know what the Able Commission is. What is the Able Commission?
So in my opinion, to be honest with you, personal opinion, the Able Commission is actually a very warranted department in the state. They basically regulate alcohol sales across the state, and they are given a set of laws, and they have to interpret those laws in the best way they know how. But as a person who has teenage daughters, it's their job to make sure my girls aren't out there drinking when they're not supposed to. Right. And they're keeping people from drinking and driving and overindulging. And so, and in that instance, I think they're great. And so there's a set of laws that they have been tasked with enforcing. And so that's their job, is to come in and make sure those laws are being enforced. So. Yeah. But it's interesting. We all sometimes, with any law, we all have our own interpretation of what we think that means. And sometimes it's not the same as how it's being interpreted. But sure. I'm going to tell on your employees real fast, because it was so cute. I was sitting at the bar waiting on you today, and you have one bartender training a brand new bartender and doing a great job, by the way, super great job. And the newest bartender says, so we're not allowed to sample the beers, are we? She's like, no. I was like, well, technically you can, but it depends on where you are. I said, so we had a long discussion about what was legal and what was not, where it was legal, where it was not, and kind of the nuances. And she goes, I'm so glad you were sitting here today. And I said, I'm so sorry to have jumped in on your conversation, but I said, I have literally answered this email probably 10 times in the last 2 weeks. How can we do this? How do we train our employees? How do we make sure we do it the right way? I feel like the great thing about our industry, and actually the powers that be at Able have said the same thing, the craft brewery industry is so precise about following the rules and so conscientious about wanting to do it the right way. They understand the impacts on the community, both good and bad. And so they want to be the people who can do it the right way. And so they actually, most of the time, are overdoing it, right? So yeah. It was funny because she was having that conversation. I was like, I have literally answered this question 10 times in the last 5 days. So let's have this conversation.
And that's fine that you corrected them. But in our brewery, in our space, we have a lot of overcross.
That is exactly what I told her.
Within the brew pub and here.
Yes. I said, you can't do that at the brew pub. I was like, no. And I said, and to be honest with you, I said, your company policy trumps everything. And I said, and my guess is there's company policy that steps in and says when you are allowed to taste and when you are not. And I said, and that comes first. And we advise that with all of our breweries, is that, listen, regardless of what the law says, you want to protect yourself and your employees. And so by not allowing that while they're on the clock, right, obviously, then that makes a lot more sense. I said, this is how the law reads, but you have to, you have to listen to your bosses first. I said, so look at company policy first. And so it was a very interesting conversation, but it's fun to listen to people who are like, no. I was like, you can, but it's not advised. So here's how it goes, right? Right. So anyway, they were fantastic.
So going on a little bit more fun subject, you obviously were not coming from the brewing world. Nope. Into the seat. Mm-hmm. What brought you into and intrigued you to take your role now of the Craft Brewers Association?
I've spent the last 20 years in the event industry. I've run the Tulsa State Fair. I ran Oktoberfest here in Tulsa, a slew of events out in Broken Arrow for the chamber. It's kind of my passion. I do love events, but my hobby with my husband was craft beer. I mean, we have a group of friends. We will spend weekends just, trotting around the city and trying to find a new beer and whatever. And that's just what we do. We've got a group actually who's going this weekend to Kansas City, and we've already got a list of breweries lined up that we're going to go see when we're there. And, heck yeah. And so it was a passion of mine just on a personal level anyway. So I had a friend text me about this position I didn't know was open. And I was like, well, I'm not really looking for a job. And she kind of told me about it. I was like, well, maybe I'm looking for a job. So it was great. And so it allows me to really kind of combine my two biggest passions, which are obviously craft beer here in the state, and then events, which obviously we have to have in order to promote kind of what we're doing and getting people out there, have a little fun, try a couple of beers, see if they like something different. So it's been great. In running events, I had to know a lot about Able and how that works within the state. I've learned a lot since I've come on the other side of things, which has been very eye-opening. But having that background has really helped. And having a passion for it has been really fun. Getting to go in and just meet people on the backside of the brewery industry and talk about what their troubles have been and how do we fix those. That's been so fascinating to me. And I'm so excited to kind of hit that head on in 2024.
Sweet. What's been your most eye-opening learning point for let's call it the brewing industry specifically?
Oh, gosh, that's a tough one. To be fair, I think honestly the biggest learning curve was, as much as I thought I knew about the laws and how they worked, there were so many more I didn't know about that happened on the back end. I knew a lot about the event side of things and how that works and what I needed and what needed to happen, but on the back end and what breweries are allowed and not allowed to do, as opposed to what, a bar is allowed and not allowed to do, and what a liquor store can do and not do. There's 1,000 million different rules, and it's so different. And then the consequences, if those rules are broken, are just astounding. And not necessarily in a bad way, just you hear people. I read a Facebook thread the other day, and someone was giving a restaurant owner a hard time because he was upset about all the fake IDs that were coming through his door. And they're like, oh man, it's just a fake ID. This is kids just trying to have fun. And 2 years ago, I probably would have been like, it's just some kid just trying to have fun, whatever. Well, then you stop and you think about this small business and all this person has put into making this business successful and work and pay their bills and pay their taxes to our community. And we're willing to put on the line for a $20,000 fine for a fake ID, right? And so I was like, guys, I don't think you understand what you're asking him to do right now. Like, people just don't know. They just don't know.
Right.
And so
the ramifications are large.
Huge. They're huge. And so and for a small business, it's so much. And so that side of it has just been incredibly eye-opening, and it really gives you a different perspective on why people react the way they do to certain things.
Sure. So okay, so on that note, I know the legal side is probably the more complicated portion of owning a brewery, owning any kind of alcohol serving industry. For listeners out there, let's say they're brewery owners or this, that, and the other in the state of Oklahoma, or brewers or servers, what would be the number one law that you would harp on that they should pay attention to, that people maybe don't know about or don't know how to navigate correctly?
Oh, gosh, there's a couple.
You can say two.
Yeah, sure.
That's
no,
fine.
I would say this. In recent weeks, we've had some things come up. We've seen some emails come through. There's a couple of different factions out there right now. I'm going to say factions for lack of a better word, really. So you've got the ABLE Commission out there doing what they need to do, enforcing their laws or whatever. And there's a whole separate set of law enforcement out there. There is a program called Too Much to Lose that has been developed by the State Department of Health, basically to curb underage drinking and selling of underage or selling of alcohol to underage people. And so, which on the surface and really in detail is great, right? It's great. Again, I'm the mom of teenage kids. Prefer that just not be handed to my child anytime she wants it, right? So it's great. The difference is if ABLE comes into your brewery and finds you in violation and they give you a fine, your company receives that fine. And so you as a company owner, business owner, have to decide how you handle that fine, right?
And what would deem you in violation?
They've got a lot. There's plenty.
Yeah. What would be the top two?
Underage, I'm sure, serving somebody underage. And then, do you have the right, are your licenses up to date? Do you have what they need? There's several, but the flip side of that is that Too Much to Lose program with the State Department of Health, which again is a great program. They have partnered with the Tulsa County and Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department, and those guys will come in plain clothes. And if they'll bring somebody underage in with them with a fake ID. And if your beer tender checks an ID and just happens to do the math wrong, or is in a super hurry because you're crowded and a lot of people going on and they just don't get it right, and they serve underage, that fine then goes to that particular employee, not to your company. And so, it's super hard as a small business owner. I think anyone with a small business right now would agree that, your employees are your greatest asset, and keeping them and retaining them and keeping them, up to date on things is the hardest part of that job. So getting an employee who has a fine now of $1,000 and a possible misdemeanor, levied against them is really difficult. So keeping them trained, I think, is it's just a nonstop action you have to take.
Do they get
hard.
warnings at all?
No.
So it's like it's not like a speeding ticket. It is you don't have the chance for a warning.
We have not seen any warnings yet. I'm not saying they're not giving them, but we have not heard of any yet. So no. And so again, they have a job to do, and they are law enforcement. They see very much in black and white, you know, and in the end, they probably see a beer tender who's just overwhelmed and swamped and just miss maths. I could do that right now without being busy, you know.
Right.
And so it's really hard. There's a lot going on right now for those guys, you know, and there's goods and bads. You can see both sides of it, but you know, as a business owner and a brewery owner, it's just one more thing to add to your list to like make sure this is in compliance. So
sure. And you know, for the most part, I would say anybody trying to serve alcohol to the public is trying to be by the rules.
100%. And again, I'll go back to what the Able Commission has said to me. They applaud the brewery industry because they far and above try really hard, right? Because again, when you're a small business, same with liquor store owners, small businesses, right? And so that's their livelihood. And so they know they're not making money on an 18-year-old. That kid's, you know, they don't have the disposable income to really help them stay open, right?
It's not going to be a repeat customer.
Right. It's not in their best interest, right? So that one sale isn't going to help them. So they're not trying to do that either. And I would say the same is probably for most bars and restaurants as well. So it's just, you know, we are not somebody who the Able Commission is really concerned about in that vein, which is great. And that says a lot about, again, goes back to how much that breweries care about their communities too, right? I mean, they're all parents and aunts and uncles and they've seen it. And so they want to make sure that everybody is safe in that instance. Yeah.
This is a super fun, and it's not supposed to be this scary industry to run.
Right.
And what has been, you obviously said that, you know, meeting all of the people on the back end and this, that, and the other, what has been the most joyful part of coming into the brewing industry, and that part of learning, you know, outside of legal, let's steer away from legal, what has been the coolest thing that you have noticed that you didn't know before? You know, you were outsider looking in and may have, you know, when you go on trips or whatever, pointed out to go to craft breweries, but what was the thing that you have seen as something so wildly different that you didn't know before and now that you do?
I don't know if it's wildly different. You know, it's been really fun for me to go from, okay, this is the way I'm going to put it. So like, I feel like I've gone from being like fangirl, like total fangirl for craft beer. I've been this way for years and years and years. Love craft beer, love going in, I got to know, you know, a couple of beer tenders here and there at different breweries we would, you know, frequent and whatever. And then when I got this job, I was like, man, I just don't want to be like the fake girl, right? I want them to know, like, I really do love beer. It's like literally something we enjoy so much. If you saw my beer fridge at home, I actually think I said that in my interview. I was like, if you saw my beer fridge, you would hire me right now. But it was interesting to me because I deeply wanted the breweries to know that, like, I really do care about what they need and they want, because I'm a customer too. And I want you to stay around because I really enjoy your beer, right? So it kind of works for me on both ends. But I will say the best thing that's happened is just, it didn't surprise me, but I was happy to see it, just how quickly I was kind of welcomed into the fold, and how quickly people were willing to just say, hey, listen, this is a problem I need some help with. What do you think about this? And I was like, whoa, I don't actually know the answer to that question. Let me see what I can find out for you, right? And I've always said that. I may not know right away, but I promise you I'll find out what I can. And so
you just glanced over, we're actually sitting in our brewery right now as she's answering this question. And I don't think that the microphones are catching up on what's turning on in the background, but that's our boiler that creates steam so that our hot water can become hot and that our boil kettle can actually boil.
Please make some beer. I feel like that sounds great.
We're not making beer right now, but we're keeping our water hot.
It needs to be ready to go.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, but I will say this. I just, it didn't surprise me that people were so welcoming, really. it was a hope I had, right? But it has been great. It has been really great. I've tried hard to kind of get out and see everybody and get to meet people. I haven't gotten there yet. 2024, plan to finish that off. I had high hopes for doing a world tour in the summer last summer, and it just didn't pan out. But
I was actually thinking about that when Lisa and I actually visited about your job, because I was kind of scared for you. We have almost 80 breweries in the state.
Yep.
And Lisa and I made it down to Mountain Fork and Broken Bow.
Yeah.
For the first time since they've opened.
Yeah.
Last weekend.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I know. I keep telling those guys.
I was driving away and I was like, oh my gosh, Amber would have to go to the ends of the earth every single, like there's 80 of us.
Yeah.
And when you're visiting, you're probably going to want to spend at least 2 to 3 hours in each place.
We're trying. Yeah. So again, the good news is my husband loves it too. So we can always make weekend trips of it. Yeah. But I was joking with the board the other day because I was like, yeah, I've gotten to Bunch, and then where I can't get down to visit them, I try to get to a festival that they're at so I can at least come see them at a festival. I've done that with Kokendorfer in some places. But yeah, I mean, honest to God, I've been looking for an excuse to go down to see Mountain Fork and Beaver's Bend and down to Lost Street in Durant. And I mean, Rising Eagle just opened. They've got a great brew pub out there too. And I'm like, man. So I was trying to find the route, and I was like, ooh, that is not a day trip. We're gonna have to figure that out. So
it's not a day trip.
It's not a day trip. But then I was like, ooh, but like a couple of days of staycation for brewery sounds fun. So let's make that happen. So yeah. So that's on my list for 2024 for sure, is to get to some of our guys who are doing a fantastic job, but are maybe just not in the main vein of Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Right. Well, I can tell you they're busy.
Thank God.
There was a lot of Dallas, Texas people down there.
Good. I hope so.
we were taking the Texas money and Texas taxes
all day long.
Oh yeah, it was great. I was clapping to their success. It was great.
That's fantastic. Yeah. No, and like I said, there's several that we've got to get to, but try to get to Enid as much as possible. Luckily for Enid, or unlucky, I don't know which, they're on my way to see some family out in Western Oklahoma, so I get to see those guys a little bit. But
so for for me and for all the other brewery owners or people interested in the brewing world, there's so many things to be kept informed of. In your opinion, how would someone like myself that owns a brewery really stay informed and in touch with the CBAO and know how to navigate all of these things and really get accomplished what we want to get accomplished in this industry and ease our passing of running a brewery?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, and you know this, I don't think there's anything easy about running a brewery, but there's not, because just about the time you think you have it down, something changes. This is how this works.
It changes every single day.
Yep. Which is
by the hour.
Right? For those of us ADD people, this is great, right? But what I will say is that's what the CBAO is really great about, is that it is literally my job to make sure that we stay on top of all the new laws. We know exactly how they should be interpreted. And when we don't know, we have the people we can call and we can talk to, right? And it happens every day. And it's one of the main things that it was my top priority when I came on in this position was, hey, I am a resource for you. Call me, text me, email me, whatever is easiest for you. Let me know what you need. I will find out for you. If I don't know right away, I will find out. It's literally my job. Yeah. So it is, I would say this. You guys in the brewery industry are so immersed in how do I make the next greatest beer? How do I keep the lights on? How do I get more people here, right? You have so many things to worry about. And you 1000% need to know the laws and you need to know the rules. But at some level, it's almost impossible to keep up on a daily basis because they do change so quickly. So it is literally our job as an organization to make sure that we have what you need. So when you question it or you're concerned about something, your first call should be to us. And we are the ones who should be there to make sure you have the absolute utmost authority on what it is you're dealing with in that moment.
And so not even on the legal side of things, but do you have contacts for brewers that are looking for different kind of raw material or hops or connections absolutely. In that world? Do we have those connections with CBAO?
We do. A lot of that is through our allied members. I've worked hard in the last 9 months to bring on, not that we didn't already have them, because we absolutely did, to bring on additional allied members who will come on and offer discounts for what it is they have to sell to people who are members only. And then outside of that, we have a whole network through the Brewers Association, the National Association, that we can connect you with should you need something that we don't have, but they do. So absolutely, we are kind of that lifeline to all of those things that you may need throughout your business world. And it might not be even brewery related necessarily. Maybe you know what the next greatest POS system is, or you need to know, like, can I use a restaurant supply company to bring in what I need for the bathrooms in the brewery or whatever, you know? So we're working through all of that with you guys too. Just all the basics.
So I guess you'll probably say your contact at the end of this podcast, but are you the best source to get into those connections?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, really, I'm the only one at the CBAO.
Sure.
So that's
I guess
me.
There's the board.
Yes.
But
and
they're
again,
probably not.
The board is fantastic, and they know way more than I do on most things because they've been in it and they've dealt with it firsthand, right? But they're also brewery owners, all of them, or at least high up in the brewery that they're at. And so they're busy too. I would say that your first line would be me. And if I don't know, I will make sure I find somebody who does.
Cool.
So.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the topic or the thing that you're most in tune with going into 2024, and what would your goals be for the industry and how you're going to navigate that, and what kind of help you need from us as brewery owners?
So I kind of talked about this a little bit at our annual meeting in December. You start an association because you've got a group of people who kind of are like-minded, and there's a kind of a common goal we're trying to get to. We're trying to stay alive right now, right? What laws do we need passed? What do we need to have fixed? How can we band together and find a great, source for this, that, or the other? And that's kind of how it started. And then we've had a couple of executive directors come in and put in some great processes and procedures and do a really good job kind of setting us up, making us professional, getting us where we need to be. And now we're in that phase of development as an organization where partnerships are going to be instrumental in moving us forward. And so you mentioned a little bit a minute ago about, are we partnered with allied members who can help us with, finding products and services that we might need? Yes, we're doing that. We're also working very closely right now with Oklahoma State on 2 different levels, both with their hospitality and tourism management program. They've got a bunch of would-be potential future brewers on hand over there that we'd like to start getting fed into the, the back end of our industry to keep that moving, get that youth and that young blood in here, right?
It is hard to hire a brewer in the state of Oklahoma.
It is. And so I actually met with them a couple of weeks ago. We're working on internship programs with them, trying to get their guys out here and working with us, helping them with some of the things they're doing with Craft Beer Forum. And then I had a separate meeting with the Department of Ag at Oklahoma State. They are right now trying to create a hop variety that we can grow down here in the South. They're working with several other states. So we're working with them on the research and development side there as well, so that we can hopefully at some point have product that costs us less because it's developed closer to home than Washington and Oregon. I learned the other day that 95% of the hops grown in the country are in Washington and Oregon.
Yep.
95%. It's a lot of hops up there.
Yeah.
So
have you ever been able to get up there?
I have. I was for the wine industry when I was there, but yeah, I mean, we went through some different farms and I was like, it's insane. And it's great, but it's a long way away. So if you can cut shipping costs, So we're looking at some of that. They're also looking at working hand in hand with brewers on how can they develop a new variety of hops. It might be something that we have specifically down here in the South. So that would be kind of cool too. And again, partnering with the Liquor Store Association, making sure that we have what they need so they can continue to give us additional shelf space to get our products sold. So lots of partnerships that will move us forward as an industry. So just trying to make sure that we are continually looking down the road and setting ourselves up for the success that we need.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Right on. So from your aspect of all of that, before I ask that question, so to reiterate, if you're a brewer that doesn't know, like, hey, because when I started our brewery, one of my initial questions was, how was I going to start a relationship with a malt provider?
Right.
Would you be someone that could set people up and answer that question?
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And again, it just goes back to you join an association for what that for what that association can give you for the most part, right? And so what you're getting can be tangible and it can not be tangible at the same time. But for the most part, the CBAO, in my opinion, should be a resource. And so you can call me and say, hey, listen, I need a malt provider. I'm like, great. Here are some allied members we have who are malt providers. See if those work for you. If those don't, we'll look at what's, outside the association. But for the most part, we feel like we can provide some really great options in that situation and others as well. But yeah, it's absolutely my job to make sure that you have, if you just need a guy who can make you new hats and logoed shirts, we've got that too, right? So we have all of those things available, and it is just a matter of you either checking out our website and seeing them on the website or giving me a call and saying, hey, listen, Amber, I've been using so-and-so for shirts for so long, but it's just not working out anymore. Do you know somebody who's better? Sure. Let's talk to these two guys. So, yeah. See what works better for you.
I'm cheating a little bit, but from my own knowledge, but even down to the nitty gritty of knowing what insurance provider.
Yep.
For your business insurance.
Yeah, which is not that easy to do in the brewery industry. So
no, it's not.
It's not that easy to do.
It's not.
We've been able to partner with, and not to advertise our own things, but our summit's coming up at the end of the month. And
advertise away.
Listen, January 27th, we've got summit coming up. Got a majority of our breweries on board already, but ready to get the rest of them. But we're bringing in Matt Tipton from YHR to talk about, hey, listen, you own a small business. What you don't know could cost you. And so he's going to talk about, common mistakes made by small businesses. He literally specializes in small businesses, and it's exactly what our guys need to hear right now. And he's got all the resources needed there to really help push people in the right direction.
And talk about the summit, because this podcast is going to come out a week from when we're talking right now.
Okay, great.
So the summit. The summit is such a great moment when brewers and brewery owners or industry people can come together.
Yep.
All under one roof.
Yep.
Explain why that is such a powerhouse of a moment that we can create as an industry, as a day to where we make ourselves stronger.
So, I talked earlier about the strong sense of community in our industry. But that starts with each other. In a sense, everybody's kind of a competitor, but for the most part, when one brewery succeeds, they all succeed. And I think that mentality is really strong amongst Oklahoma brewers. And it is proven day in and day out. I've seen it over and over again. A brewery owner from Oklahoma City calls somebody in Tulsa and says, hey, I've been dealing with this. Have you dealt with this? How did you do it? How did you fix it? What's going on? And they will have conversations, long, hard conversations about, well, this worked for us. I don't know if it'll work for you, but you could try it. Everybody's there to help everybody out for the most part. And we see it all the time. So putting everybody together in one building for a full day of continuing education, allowing some trade show vendors to come in and kind of talk about things that you may or may not know were available, from insurance to, grain to glassware, lots and lots of stuff out there. It was really great because we're all moving so fast every single day. It's hard to stop and really think about, okay, I'm figuring out what's today and tomorrow and maybe next week, but I really need to be thinking about what's next year, what's next 5 years. And a day like that really allows you to slow down just long enough to be like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I need to do.
Here's a new idea.
Right. Maybe we go back and talk about this. It may not happen tomorrow or the next day, but it gives you that spark you need to really be like, okay, I can work towards this at some point. And so, it's really good for our breweries to slow down just one day each year.
Yep.
But it is really exciting for me to see people get excited about all the continuing education that people do every year just to make themselves bigger and better for their customers.
Yeah. I love it too, because it gives me an opportunity to bounce ideas and really get reconnected to everyone that I love to see in the first place.
Right. And you're so busy every day that you don't necessarily have time to go visit the friends you love in Oklahoma City or even, Muskogee or Tahlequah, right? And it's not that far away. So it's really great. It's neat for me to watch. It's like Mama Bear, right? I get to kind of sit back and watch everybody and see those relationships and that networking happen. It's going to be a good day. I'm excited.
Where is it going to be?
So we're in Oklahoma City this year. We usually bounce back and forth between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So 2024 is Oklahoma City. We're going to be at the zoo.
Sweet.
Where else do we put a bunch of animals but in the zoo? So it'll be great. I'm so excited. They've got a whole educational building where we're going to be being educational. And yeah, it's going to be a full day. We'll have happy hour the night before. And
what speeches or seminars should people be looking out for and really getting excited about?
So I specifically scheduled our general session number 1. The very first one is Robot House, who's a marketing agency out of Oklahoma City. They specialize in brewery advertising. They've got a couple of our member breweries on their portfolio right now, but they're super creative and super fun. They're basically going to teach you how your brain is a superhero. So I'm really excited to see what they have to say that day, kind of get us started off in the right way. And then, and then just to bring us right back down to speed, we're going to talk about all the legislative issues in 2023. So everybody's kind of square on those. We'll bring an attorney in and our lobbyist and of course a representative from ABLE to make sure we have all the right information. So there's that. And then we'll have breakout sessions, everything from how to decide which events you go to and which ones you say no to and how do you say no to those. That's the hardest thing for us to do as an industry, I think, is say no. And so, and we need to be doing some of that to fight some of that burnout. So there's that. I talked about the HR situations. We'll have a sales discussion. We'll have a distribution discussion. There's a lot. We'll have all that sent out. So.
Right on. Cool. Well, let's see where we are on time. Oh yeah, we're doing really good.
It helps when I talk really fast. I'm very good at that.
Oh yeah, no. We're doing just fine and dandy. The fun thing for me is being able to. So Lisa is on the board this year and maybe next year. I'm not quite sure, which is really cool to hear the backstories of all these conversations and whatnot. I get to be like, woo, I'm in the background. I don't have to do anything and watch her navigate all the things. But what is the board working on for the next few months? Pinpoint and really trying to excel in this industry and push us forward. What's their number one goal?
So to be completely clear about all of this, and this is going to sound very cliche and a little bit not very fun because everyone wants to hear the drama and the tea, right? But
I'm not looking for drama. Right, I'm just looking for.
What I'm saying
looking for like
the board.
Hey, what should people be excited about?
Yeah, as I said, the board and I are very much on the same page. We had a full day board retreat back in December where we kind of scoped out and decided what we wanted to see in 2024, what we were keeping, what we were getting rid of, what we were bringing back. And our goal for 2024 was we strategized different ways to bring people back into the tap rooms, right? Of course, we'll still have our 2 major events. We'll still have Brewers Fest at Dodger Stadium in April. We're bringing back Wagon Wheels in Tulsa. We're really excited about that. And those will be our 2 main focused events. Aside from that, we're bringing back Pint Day. We're just going to not do it at the same time of year we've done in the past. Try to bring people into tap rooms on a day when they wouldn't normally have a ton of people in the tap room. And just really focus on different ways we can get bodies in seats, for lack of a better word. So we know that's what our breweries need. We want to see it. And so we've worked really hard, and we feel like the partnerships we're developing right now will also help with some of that as well. So
what do you think that entails other than pint days and this, that, and the other?
Well, we are working on, we actually added some new membership benefits this year, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
And they haven't all been posted just yet. We're working on getting those together, but things like events in a box. So if you're a member of the CBAO, you will have access to basically a game plan for how to host specific events. So little easy events you can host at your tap room that will bring people to you. So like, for example, a yappy hour. So if you're a dog-friendly brewery, which I think all of ours are, here are the nuts and bolts for how you put together a successful yappy hour and let people bring their dogs in. Here's what you can offer that doesn't cost you much money, but it's something to get excited about and have people like, oh, me and my friends, we're bringing our dogs, we're going to have a beer at Cabin Boys and, whatever. So different little smaller events like that. Sometimes people want to do things like that and it seems simple until they get into it and they're like, oh man, I just don't have the time to figure this all out, right? But having that kind of blueprint for that event ready to go makes it much easier for people. So down to, the timeline for how you promote it on social media, when you should do it, how you do it. So those will all be available here in the next month or so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being
Thanks for having me. I feel like I've said a lot of words today, so
yeah.
you know.
No, this is super great, and I hope that you guys listening in have learned something, and what a great resource Amber is at CBAO, especially if you're in the industry, and if you're not in the industry, how do you get involved?
So the great thing is we've just brought back our enthusiast membership, which is super great. So you don't have to be a member of, or an employee or own a brewery to be a member of the CBAO. And we've revamped it. If you were an enthusiast before, you can look at it and see it is, I think, much more beneficial to the true beer lover. First access to tickets to our events, and then automatic upgrade to VIP status every time you buy a ticket to a CBAO event, which is super cool. Yeah, discounts on merchandise, discounts on the craft beer trail, lots of value in there for those people who just really do love a good Oklahoma beer and want to have as many as possible.
Yeah, how much does a enthusiast membership cost?
So they're $100. You come to 2 events,
easy.
You've paid for that easy. So yeah, super excited about it. Should be great this year.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer with all of the value that it brings.
Absolutely. So
if you're going to a brewery and you're not an enthusiast member of the CBAO, you're losing out, right?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a lot of great merchandise out there too. So you'll get score on that when you come to our event. So get your own little membership number. You'd be super cool guy.
Sweet.
Yeah. So excited about it. Yeah, we're excited.
Well, thank you again. And please, if you deem this podcast a wonderful thing that you love in your life, share it with a friend. Find it on all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Rate it, subscribe to it. That's the only way that this keeps breathing. And for me to have a wonderful outlet to talk to wonderful people.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I love doing that. So if you still want to hear wonderful information about the brewing industry in a lot of different pockets, I'm going to be bringing in a lot of different areas of the brewery industry that I see a void of talked subjects.
Yeah.
And really dive into the nitty-gritty within certain areas. So please find us, please rate us, please subscribe. And if you like it, high five a friend and tell them about it.
Yeah.
So thank you. Next week, I'll be by myself and telling you another story about my journeys in the brewing industry, and probably about a specific style of beer. So
nice.
We'll see you next week.
Is it IPAs? This is my favorite.
I don't think next week's IPAs.
All right, I'll listen anyway. But okay.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.